Afternoon, students. This is Lohit Ram SK, Assistant Professor of Commerce, Srimati Shri YR Government Federal College, Pagoda. Dear students, in the previous sessions we discussed about inflation, but here in this session we are going to discuss the concept which is very similar and as well as a unique one, that is stagflation. So, and its causes. First, we have to know the meaning of stagflation first. Stagflation is described as the condition of weak economic growth, high unemployment, and high inflation. So, the worst moment of the inflation may be called as stagflation. So, that means there is no economic growth and there will be more and more unemployment opportunities. So, unemployment rate increasing and high inflation. So, that means the purchasing power is too low uh, with the people with the high rising price. Then it is characterized by the excessive money supply. There is a supply of money is more and high prices is there, but on the other hand the productivity is declined and unemployment is also more. So when the people is going to have a excessive money, the manufacturers will fix high price to gain the profit, but the people is unable to buy the goods. The value of purchasing power is going to be decreased. So here the productivity is too low, so it leads to losses for the business entities. They have to bear the cost of manufacturing. They have to bear the cost of fixed cost. So all these things leads to a risk for them. Ultimately, it leads to a losses for the business organization, and it will halt the economy as well. Let us understand what are the causes of stagflation. Before understanding the causes of stagflation, we have to know that this stagflation concept was emerged in 1970 80s. So actually, which is begin from 1960, but when there is a too inflation, so these stagflation arised. So which is which damaged almost all the economies, including the developed economies like USA and on other countries. So the stagflation uh, was there, but today it's not fine as like in earlier days. So let us understand the causes of stagflation. The first cause of stagflation was in the European countries. There was a oil price rise, so it's often caused by a supply side shock. So that means so there was no proper supply. So for here, for example, rising a commodity prices such as oil prices, so will cause a rise in business costs. So that means to transport become more expensive because when the price rises, if demand decreases, there may be a no purchase and transportation bears the cost only at the time, so with no profit. And short run aggregate supply will shift to the left. So that means supply curve we have seen in the previous sessions. So it will shift to the left from right to left. So it has to move from left to right, but it will shift from right to left. So it means there is a shortage of supply. So this causes a higher inflation rate and lower GDP. So GDP, we all of you know, gross domestic product. So it's a value of total amount of goods and services which are produced in a year, and uh, it will be become lower. The second cause was the powerful trade unions. So even though there is a weak economic situation in any countries, if the trade unions have a strong bargaining power, so then they may able to bargain for higher wages. They may demand for higher wages for the labor. So even in the periods of lower economic growth, so higher wages are a significant cause of inflation. though there is a higher wages, the productivity is low, and the supply side is shocked or shortaged. So it will be a loss for the business entities. So this will also cause us for rise in prices, and as it causes for increase in inflation. Then falling productivity, the another cause of stagflation. So if any economy or country experiences the falling productivity, the workers become more inefficient. So that means their skills may become down or curbed or decreased. So when they become inefficient, they may not produce the goods and services according to the demand, and they may unable to deliver them into the market at right time, and the cost will rise and output falls. So that means the cost of production will be raised. It may be operating cost, production cost, supply cost, material cost, uh, or any cost which is connected with the productional activities. So will rises, and but the total output, that means the total number of products produced, it's going to be far. Again, it will a loss for it incur a loss for business enterprises. Then the fourth cause of stagflation is rise in structural unemployment. So if there is a decline or decrease in traditional industries due to fall in productivity or no supply or no demand, we may get more structural unemployment and lower output. So the management of any business entity may not continue employees with salary without work. So their jobs may be cut down. So with that, the unemployment level it's going to be increases. So when there is a fall of production or productivity, and with that, the output is also is going to be again decreased. So thus, we can get higher unemployment even if inflation is also increasing. Why? Because there is excess of money, but no buyer is there. There is no production. There is no supply. So all these things happen in this stagflation. Then the next one, the fifth cause of stagflation is government expansion of money supply. So that means in order to control the economic situation or inflation, when the government print currency, uh, the central bank's monetary policies produce credit, it will cause us for a money supply increase. So when money supply increase, people's spending capacity become more. At the same time, prices it's going to be increases. The value of goods is going to be decreases. But whenever the price increases, the demand decreases. So the purchasing power of the people may come down at that time. So it will leads to inflation. Then conflicting contractionary and expansionary policies, another cause. So contractionary is the policy in which the measures are taken to control the monetary supply into the economy. And expansionary is all about increasing the monetary supply and monetary rates into the economic activities. So whenever there is a conflict between contractionary and expansionary policies, so it will reduce the economic growth and increase the inflation. And the last cause of stagflation is non-diversified economies in cities. So the famous urbanist Jane Jacob believed that the stagflation could be prevented with the emphasis with the importance on import replacing cities, in which production and imports were balanced. That means the production of goods and services in a country within the domestic circuit of the country, and the imports taken by the other countries should be balanced. So in other words, the diversifying city economies could benefit the economy, That means the city economies has to be balanced or diversified. Otherwise, they may get into stagflation. So, non-diversification of economies in cities is another cause of stagflation. So, with this, I would like to conclude my session. Thank you. Good afternoon, students. This is Lohit Ram SK. Dear students, in this session, we are going to cover the last title topic of the business economics paper, that is quantitative easing and its aims and working of quantitative easing. So, let us know the meaning of quantitative easing. So the quantitative easing involves the central bank increasing the money supply. So and using these as electronically created funds to buy government bonds or other securities. That means there is no cash transactions. Only electronically created funds are used here to increase the money supply. So and this step is taken by the central bank in order to buy the government bonds and our other securities. So the quantitative easing is a form of expansionary monetary policy. So it is usually used in liquidity trap. So that means when there is a when base rate interest rates cannot be cut by any further by the central bank. So the central bank uses this quantitative easing. Here in the liquidity trap means the when the people with the rate of interest is too low, instead of maintaining the bank balance, they want to have a cash in hand. So at that time, the central bank use this quantitative techniques to increase the monetary supply. Let us see the aims of quantitative easing. So here, the first aim of quantitative easing is increasing economic activity. So that means quantitative easing aims to encourage banks lending investment. So and therefore improve the rate of economic growth. So when instead of cash transaction, it is converted into electronic fund transfer. So the banks will become interested to lend money, but higher inflation rate quantitative easing is also may be used to avoid the inflation or to curb the inflation. So the lower interest rates on assets will be another aim or objective of quantitative easing. So with the lower interest, so it will attract the banks as well as the customers of bank to lend money. Here we can come to know that the working of quantitative easing, the number one is that the central bank creates money electronically. So this is similar effect to printing money. So but except there are increasing in bank reserve, but there is no movement of cash, which do not need to be printed in the form of cash. Only through electronically the transactions take place. But cash, the bank's reserves is going to be increases at that time also. So the central bank uses these extra reserves to buy various securities. So means with this includes the government bonds as well as corporate bonds. We already discussed this in the meaning that the government bonds and corporate bonds are purchased by the central bank by using this quantitative using easing. So then here after buying these securities, it will achieve two things. One, that is increased liquidity. The bank sells assets for cash. So that means therefore banks see an increase in their liquidity cash reserves. So in theory of the bank will lend more. The bank will when be more willing to lend, sorry, when it's more willing to, that means it's interested to lend more by the customers, lend to customers. So this lending will be important for increasing investment and consumer spending. So that means the banks may provide more and more advances to the consumers, sorry, customers of bank. Then it lowers the interest rates. So here the buying assets reduces the interest rate also, because no cash transactions, lower interest rates. So then lower interest rates on these securities may also encourage banks to lend rather than keep securities which are paying low interest. So higher lending should be helpful the economic growth, so it will cause for the increasing the investment share capital to the business entities also. So with that they can form the capital for their business activities also. So the quantitative easing, which will be beneficial for both bank, economy as well as business entities. So with this, I would like to conclude this session. Thank you.